we really want to decrease the amount of resistance we have with the clients that we're speaking with, so that we can have an engaging discussion and really move forward towards that change talk and strengthening commitment. So we're going to go over 5 types of reflections. Again, I'm not expecting you to memorize all 5 of these, but you will have an opportunity to use them as we practice these in the next session. So the first one is the simple reflection, as we've already talked about. So for example, the client may say, "I'm no alcoholic." You may respond and say, "That label really doesn't fit you." Just simply giving that response back. Looking at a reflection of meaning, trying to get the underlying meaning of what your client is saying. You say that talking about things will help, but all it does is stir things up. You're thinking that you'd be better off just leaving things the way they are, because trying to make your life better might actually make it worse instead. So you're trying to get at that meaning underneath what that client is saying. Reflection of feeling. So again, the same response that the client said in the reflection of meaning. You say that you're talking about things you're talking about things will help, but all it does is stir things up. You're worried that the more we talk about this, the worse you're going to feel. So there's small nuances between these different types of reflections, right? We touched on double-sided reflection a little bit. Sometimes I get mad at myself for spending so much money on cocaine, but I don't do it every paycheck, so I'm not an addict. This is not a personal statement from me. You don't believe you're addicted to cocaine, but at the same time it bothers you when you spend most of your paycheck getting high. So that's basically where we have on one hand and on the other hand, okay? The last one is actually one of my favorite, amplified reflection. And this is used when you only hear the negative side from someone. And you have the opportunity to actually exaggerate what they're saying, which may cause them to do this. I don't really think I need to go all through this treatment right now. Everything in your life is fine the way it is right now. What do you think someone might say if you responded to them that way? So I don't think I really need to go through all this treatment. Everything in your life is just fine right now. You don't need to, there's no need to change anything. Bingo. Well, that's not exactly what I said, right? So you sort of exaggerate what they're saying, and then that gives them an opportunity to say, well, that's not really what I said. Okay, well, let me know what you mean by that, right? Because they're coming to you and they're being very resistant. So all the statements that I've said are really resistant. And so what you're trying to do is decrease that resistance so you can get back to a place where you're able to start talking about that change again. Okay? Are there any questions on those? I think for the purposes of when we start going through the practice sessions, if you feel more comfortable focusing on simple reflection, double-sided reflection, and amplified reflection, I think those 3 may be the best to start out with, because the meaning and feeling really get into understanding the sort of underlying feelings that your client may be having. And if you're not comfortable to do that, if you don't know your client that well, if you just want to keep it simple, those are 3 of the other reflections that you might want to focus on. And the other thing I'd like to emphasize that you really want, as we said earlier, you really want to emphasize personal choice and control. So if someone is really resistant to you, extremely resistant to you, at the end of the day, the decision is yours. You have the right to make any decision you would like to do in this situation. So really putting it back into the client's hands to say, yes, I'm not here to force you to do anything. You're not saying that, but what you're saying is the choice is yours, truly. And mean it when you say it, right? So when you're saying this, mean what you say and be genuine. Because I'm sure many of you know that if you're talking to someone and you're not being genuine, sometimes they can kind of see through that. I know my mom sees through me every time I'm not genuine. After 40 years, she knows that. So being genuine is really important, okay?